Good afternoon. Here we are.
Guess where?
At the Malheur Wildlife National Refuge, is it correct?
That's
as
right.
everybody knows it as MWR.
Right.
Malheur Wildlife Refuge. We're going to wait for a couple seconds. Let as many people as you can join and tag, because obviously we have a lot to say.
We do today.
It's been over, what, 2.5 years?
2.5 years. They came and took us out of here.
Since
the assassination of Robert Lavoy Finicum.
Absolutely.
The wrongful incarceration, and the kangaroo courts. And obviously, we were having a dialogue during the process of certain documents that I was trying to give you, or you trying to run through the courts. But according to corrupt Anna J. Brown, these documents weren't.
We're never allowed in the court.
We're never allowed in the court.
Never allowed in evidence.
No, so your jury of your peers or a grand jury never saw any of these documents.
Nobody saw.
But certain people like Chad Cargis, or maybe Ron Wyden, maybe Jeff Merkley, maybe Greg Walden, maybe certain people within the Bureau of Land Management, Department of Fish and Wildlife,
Knew about this.
the U.S. Forest, you probably knew about this. So we're going to wait a couple of minutes, and then we're going to take it step by step and let the American people know they're going to be the jury of your peers. So obviously you were found not guilty. You and a lot of political prisoners were not found not guilty.
7 of us not guilty.
Not guilty. And obviously how the government tried to railroad you guys.
Absolutely.
And not just the symbolics of actually being so victorious is the property right to the ranchers and the property right to the Native Americans. Most of the American people don't know or understand. And this is going to be educational today, because I'm going to try to make it short and sweet. But in order for this to happen and be effective, I'm hoping that you guys can share and tag as many people as possible. Because at the end of the day, at the end of this live stream, we're going to pull the documents out for the American people to see, which corrupt Anna J. Brown, Anna J. Brown would not allow to enter into evidence, or
exculpatory evidence.
Exculpatory evidence, as they define in the legalese or legal term. So we'll wait.
Brady violations.
Oh, tons of Brady violations. as we move forward, because at the end of the day, it's the people's land. So
That's
how can
right.
these criminal agencies own these lands?
Well, that's what we asked them for. We asked them for deeds. We asked them for proof. And there was none. And we have evidence that they don't own the land.
That these are actually, the Malheur Wildlife Refuge is actually private land, not federal land, no different than the Federal Reserve being disguised as a federal government, just like FedEx, using the word FedEx, no different than the Federal Reserve.
Right. No, they're not federal agents.
They're not federal agency. So this land right here is well documented by Chad Cargis himself and other documents that state that the Malheur Wildlife Refuge is actually private property. Now, if it's
Owned
private,
by a corporation.
owned by a corporation, and Kenneth Johnson. One of the things that we found out about these documents back in 2012. That means prior to you guys coming here, prior to the Hammond fiasco, and prior to the assassination of Robert Lavoy Finicum, this 2012 memo that I was actually grateful for a couple people out there that sending it to that were able to validate this document, never was brought up as admissible evidence. Why not?
We didn't get any evidence in. The evidence was all put out in motion in the limine, so that they couldn't bring forth that evidence that we had, and we weren't allowed to speak of those things. We weren't allowed to speak about why we were here or who owned the property, and that was what we demanded to know. If we were trespassing on private property, who owns the property? Bring forth the deed. And then you can trespass. And they found guilty people trespassing when they did not have the true owners of the property.
The true ownership of this property, of whatever they call parcels.
So it wasn't the owners that pressed the charges.
And actually, there's 2 corporations or 3. So we're gonna decipher. We're gonna leave the Hammonds scenario on Steens Mountain totally separate from Malheur Wildlife Refuge. These are documents pertaining to the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. I don't want it to be confused with Steens Mountain and what's on Steens Mountain. Just strictly on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. There are 2 vital documents that states that this is private property, well documented, and yet purchased. And also on one of the documents it says that the federal government controls this Malheur Wildlife Refuge. So if it's under the sheriff's control, how in the world did the federal government think that this is federal land?
That's a good question.
So
So who had the control? It was the sheriff, but they backed it up by using the federal agents, or the federal agents were taking control of the sheriff.
yeah, Sheriff Ward, David Ward. David Ward himself has jurisdiction over this property, this private property.
His responsibility was to protect the rights of the peoples in his county.
Not the federal government,
Right, not the
because he's
federal
the elected sheriff.
Absolutely.
Supposedly or allegedly, he is a constitutional sheriff, but his actions speak different. Would that be correct?
That's true. Yeah.
So here we are. We're at the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, and as I read these documents, and I was able to review some of it with Shawna Cox, and we continue to go back to this question. One of the reasons why I had to come here, because I had to see it for myself. I had to let the American people know, if these documents do exist, then why did he waste so much federal money, taxpayers' money, to unlawfully prosecute you and put everybody through such turmoils?
Right. Yeah. Why so much money? Because they didn't want the truth out. They want to make people believe in smoke and mirrors that they actually own land, that they have control of the land, when they don't. It's all a ruse, and it's for money, and it's the purpose of many different environmental groups, proclaiming to be environmental groups, that are sucking the lifeblood out of and the money out of the American people. They confuse them with falsehoods there are no facts, and they just assume, by assumption and presumption, that they can take away the land, and it only happens when we allow it to happen, and that's why we didn't want it. We wanted to bring that to the people's attention.
Yeah, the Center of Biological Diversity with Karen Suckling, obviously under the hands
Friends of the Malheur.
Yeah, Friends of the Malheur, George Soros, the Oregonian, Blue Mountain Eagle, Malheur Enterprise, friends of all these criminals or organizations, meaning media,
judges,
attorneys, and all that. They're all in bed, just like the people in Lewis and Clark Law School. They're all in bed in this. Now, this is where I'm going. You know, when I were at the airport, I told you I heard a stunning thing that just mind boggled me. That the girl that she's studying to be a United States Forest Service ranger, and told me that she's aware that the United Nations control all national parks. And then when I told her, well, what about the Constitution? Well, she told me no. This is how they dumb down the American people, especially those in the 12 Western universities.
Well, she doesn't know the Constitution. She didn't care. So why is she here?
Yeah, I mean, she was born in the United States. Yeah.
We have no country. It'll be a one-world government.
A one-world government, and this is about talking indoctrination.
Sure.
So let's go back to Chad Cargill's 2012 memo, this three-page letter. JL&M investments have investments in the minerals on the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
Right. And Kenneth Johnson is a party to that.
A party to that. And he's a lawyer.
Imagine that.
Isn't Ron Wyden a lawyer? Or Kate Brown or Jeff Merkley or Greg Walden? Aren't these lawyers? Or Anna J. Brown once a lawyer? Or Anna Akins once a lawyer? I mean, these criminals, Sally Amanda Marshall, isn't she a lawyer? Or Stacey Beckerman, isn't she a lawyer?
Lawyers, judges.
Or Errol Blumenauer, another one? I think they all come from the Lewis and Clark Law School.
Yep.
So my thing at the end of the day is all that taxpayers, that was, how much was it, 100 million?
$100 million.
$100 million of taxpayers' money, which these criminals got enriched themselves.
For the case in Portland, Oregon, against the people at the Malheur.
And going after you.
Right.
And the other political prisoners.
Right.
And the assassination of Robert Lavoy Finicum. So, knowing those two documents that should be presented to a grand jury, should the American people take all their assets, meaning their house, their cars, their bank accounts, even to the last draws, and for retribution to the American taxpayers and to the political prisoners, especially Robert Lavoy Finicum's family?
We need to go after those people individually who have done these crimes and take it from them, not from the taxpayers, not from we the people, but from the people who've committed the crimes. We need people to go to the website and see these crimes. We the people, commonlawgrandjury.com. See the crimes, and the evidence is there. We are putting forth more evidence so that people can understand we should have juries of our own peers, not of self-appointed friends of judges and attorneys.
Bar members.
Bar
members are graduates from the Lewis and Clark Law School. And these criminals are actually running our government, which I call it a defective government, because I can prove that through the Oregon Legislative Investment Council on how they're making money on the minerals. Their 401ks invested in their minerals.
So keep watching on this site and look for the evidence as Laz posts it out.
So those 3 letters, and in addition to another 11 pages, I'm going to post them for the American people to read. All I can do is post them there, and it's only up to you to read, because at the end of the day, if this is a national Malheur Wildlife Refuge, then what the hell are they? A document that's saying it's private property. I don't understand.
You guys be the judge. We the people, be the judge. Take a look at the evidence that we've presented and decide who's telling the truth. Is it true? Who owns the refuge?
Who owns the refuge is a prime example.
Check it out.
Who owns the refuge? And why would Chad Cargill's signature and name tied to the Malheur Wildlife Refuge
and the minerals?
And the minerals on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge. So
do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework, because at the end of the day, these are your tax dollars in which they've tried to railroad patriots or political prisoners now.
And ranchers.
And ranchers.
Taking away
and Native Americans that are taking their land.
Absolutely.
The water, the land, and the minerals. And why do I say water, land, and minerals? Here, let's take a walk over here. We'll walk right there. Well, right there's the water.
Yeah,
so right there. See? That's the water. Over there, across there, we can take a walk that way and show the American people the water. Huh? It's okay.
It's almost dead. It's probably died.
So
Just keep talking and walking.
yeah, so we're gonna see the water, and then obviously the land, the vast amount of land. So obviously water. So they use the endangered species, as you can see. That's the endangered species that they're trying to use. So they use the endangered species, which is the water, the endangered species, which we already know, Cliff Bentz, Ron Wyden, Jeff Merkley, Kate Brown are behind Executive Order 1315 here in the state of Oregon. So the way they steal the land is, obviously I've been saying it along, is they got to steal your under the endangered species. The way to steal your land is, obviously you have a pond to those ranchers and Native Americans. Oh, you can't have that. So we'll go steal your land. Or there's an endangered species, we'll go steal your land. But at the end of the day, you got the water, you got the land, and underneath that ground, that's where your minerals are at. This is why Chad Cargill's name is in that document. So, and Chad Cargill actually testified against you.
Yep.
Did he have anything pleasant to say?
Well, I wasn't in there. I didn't talk to him. We don't. We just know that was their plan. So we need to get the truth out to America. So ever we give you a little bit here and there, keep watching, because the truth will come out.
And in America, it's up to you to figure it out. For you to read. If you do not read, if you do not empower yourself with the Constitution, which Robert Lavoy Finicum was trying to educate the American people here in the state of Oregon
about the Constitution.
About the Constitution, then what's the purpose of living? I mean, are we under we under tyranny?
We're under communism, so we're.
Or tyranny.
Tyranny.
So how many people are you willing to have control your life? So I want to say thank you.
Because if we keep it less than 5-10 minutes, some people watch it.